The movie begins with 8 candidates for a top job at a mysterious company, gathered in a dark, windowless room with 2 rows of desks. They have passed previous requirements, not mentioned. Each candidate sits, and upon their desk is a piece of paper identifying them as Candidate 1, Candidate 2, and so on. The invigilator walks in to set the rules for the exam. The exam consists of answering one question, and there is only one answer. Inside the room, there are no laws other than what the company permits. The candidates cannot communicate with the invigilator or the guard. They cannot spoil their own paper, and they cannot leave the room for any reason. If they break any of the rules, they will be disqualified. The invigilator asks the candidates if they have any questions, and no one replies. He sets the clock at exactly 80 minutes and leaves the room. Once alone, the candidates turn their paper over and find nothing written on the back. They look at each other in confusion. One candidate starts writing, "I believe I deserve." The guard walks up to her and throws her out of the room because she has written on her paper, spoiling it. A young white man starts talking and convinces everyone to work together until they find what the question is, arguing that for a job this elite, the answer can't be simple, it takes teamwork. He gives insulting names to the candidates based on their physical appearance: black, white, brown, blonde, brunette, dark, deaf. Then White thinks about what else the invigilator hasn't forbidden them to do. He stands up, realizing the guard only acts when the rules are broken. Thus, they are sure now that anything unspoken by the invigilator is allowed. At first, they try to read a hidden message in the papers by placing them in front of a light, but that doesn't reveal anything. When they break the lights surrounding the room, emergency lights come on. They carefully break the emergency tubes and find infrared light, but none of this helps them see anything on the paper. They discover that no one will be disqualified if a candidate spoils another candidate's paper, so White scribbles on Candidate 1's paper to confirm this. When Dark tries to say they're probably missing something obvious, White dismisses him instantly. They try licking their papers to see if there's anything. White even urinates on his but finds nothing. White starts to pick on Deaf, who speaks only French and displays symptoms of a mental or nervous disorder. Deaf says in French that they only have to look at the papers while trying to reorder small pieces of glass on top of his paper. They discover that Brown is a professional gambler, and he suggests it's a game, that the board of directors is hidden on the other side of the wall, betting on who'll win. Dark, a psychoanalyst, seems to be the only one with some information about the company, its products, its expansion, and so on. Still, none of the other candidates could find any info on the company despite doing research. Dark tells them that the company they all applied to has a job position that beats any top position in the world. It's a company that expanded during a pandemic outbreak, having found suppressants for the infection. The CEO is considered one of the most influential people in the world. White takes charge of the group as a de facto leader. Brunette discovers they can touch the guard as long as they don't talk to him. She finds a lighter in one of his pockets and wants to set off the fire alarms, believing it may produce something other than water, revealing a photograph that shows the question. She jumps onto a table but still can't reach the sprinkler. White offers her a paper, and after succeeding, she discovers that White gave her her own paper, so she's disqualified and escorted out of the room. Black walks toward White furiously, saying, "I should punch your lights out." The room goes dark. Brown says, "Lights up," and the light goes on. They discover it's voice activated. White bullies Deaf into tearing his paper and eating it. After following his instructions, Deaf crawls away. The guard puts Deaf out, dropping his glasses inside the room. White deceived them by saying the group could collaborate until they guessed, but after tricking Brunette into being disqualified, everyone begins to mistrust the others. As tension builds to greater levels, Black punches White, knocking him out, and ends up tying him to a chair with Brown's help. White starts convulsing, unable to find his medication, which he requires every hour. They realize White is infected. Dark suggests he's probably a spy for the company. Brown points out that Dark knows an awful lot about the company, and everyone starts to suspect she's the spy, working for them. They want to get the question out of her with torture. When Brown is about to torture her by cutting her with a piece of paper, they discover she's an employee at this establishment and has self-harmed on one of her thighs before. Brown cuts her thigh. The next would be her eye. She still yells that she doesn't know anything, and Brown trusts her. White is getting worse, and while everyone else debates the best way to help, Dark discovers that Brown stole White's pill and stuck it under his desk with chewing gum. Brown disagrees with giving White the drug and slaps it out of her hand. It falls down a water drain. Dark turns toward the blank screen, pleads for White's life, and is thereby disqualified. Blonde takes the pill out with her hair clip, forces the medicine into White's mouth, and he recovers almost immediately. They free him. He points out that the clock is running low, and only 4 remain. White believes only one can win. He and Black begin arguing and race to get the guard's gun. After pummeling White to the wall, Black takes the gun and, after being provoked, allegedly shoots White, but they discover the gun didn't fire. They start to fight. White stabs Black with a pencil, gains possession of the firearm, and tries to shoot Black, but the gun doesn't fire again. White figures out that only the guard can shoot the gun, so he puts it into the guard's hand. White threatens everyone, saying they must leave or be killed. Brown leaves, valuing his life. Blonde leaves and shouts, "Lights out," to allow Black to win. In the dark, White kills Black. Blonde has not entirely left the room, one of her feet remains partially inside. White sees this and wants to shoot her. Suddenly, the clock starts blaring, signaling that time has run out. White shouts to the other side of the wall that he's won. The guard puts his hand on White's shoulder and shows him there's still time left. White loses because Def adjusted the clock, so the 80-minute time slot hasn't expired yet. He tries to commit suicide but fails because, as recalled, the gun only works in the guard's hands. The glass wall turns on, and White sees the silhouette of the invigilator. He looks crushed, realizing it's all been futile. The guard disqualifies him, leading him out. Blonde fully enters the room again and picks up her paper. She fumbles with the pieces of glass in Def's glasses, then reads question 1 written on the paper's watermark in tiny print. She offers it to Def, who returns to the room, and says, "No," answering the question posed at the start, "Are there any questions?" She's offered the job. She learns that Def is the CEO of the company, a troubled but genius scientist who discovered a pill to heal wounds incredibly fast. Blonde says she may not accept the job. When the invigilator asks why she went through all that trouble if she didn't want the position, she points to Black lying on the floor and says it's unacceptable. The invigilator asks, "Who told you he's dead?" She approaches Black and sees that his bullet wound is almost healed. The invigilator explains that they put the fast-healing pill inside the bullet. They own the formula for the medicine, which also healed Black's illness, but it can only be manufactured in minimal quantities. The new director needed to have sympathy alongside ambition, intelligence, drive, and hard work. Blonde accepts the job right away. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this.